I'm going to use the 4 kings. They actually do the job very well, at least for in this performance. The reason is because these 4 kings represent the police, and the rest of the playing cards is going to be the city. It is kind of a messed up city, by the way. And I'm going to put the police right in the side. And this city, I'm going to divide it into 2 sections. Okay, this is the north side, and the spectator number 1, they pick 1 card. Okay, this card is actually running away from the police. And I'm going to put it in the side for now. And spectator number 2, from the south side, they pick a 2nd card. And they're actually running both cards away from the police. And you know, they are really lost somewhere in the deck. Doesn't really matter, because the police, they get into the city by 1 snap. They catch 2 cards right away. The card number 1 is the 4 of hearts, and the card number 2, it is the 5 of spades. Okay, so this is the final color setup at the beginning of the performance. So you can end up with 2 kings of the same color trapped in each selection. And the final setup is that you need to end up with these 3 last kings at the bottom of the deck, like that. Okay. So I'm gonna explain 2 ways you can do this setup. The way I did it in the performance, and another way, a little bit more practical. This is what I did in the performance. I show the kings as the police, and then I keep spreading, showing the deck as the city. So the reason is because I want to create a big mess, okay, as much as I can, so I can get a pinky break somewhere in the middle of the deck and proceed to the cover pass. Okay, so as fast as I can. That's the only issue. And also by doing the cover pass, you will end up with the kings over in the middle of the deck, which is okay. Then I take between 3 and 5 cards, okay, and I put them in the side. And of course, it's not the kings, but they see the same volume of the cards. Then notice by putting cards back to back, you can see there is a little gap. Okay, it's natural bending. You put them back to back, and because of that, the kings, you know, they are back to back right here. And by doing 1 hand cut, it's a natural break. Basically, you will end up with the kings all the way at the bottom, and that's the final setup. And that's what I did in the performance. But in the cover pass, the only issue is that you have to be a little bit quick, okay? And by keeping, you know, both hands in the deck, it doesn't look so natural. So by doing the mess, by closing the spread, you also get a pinky break right away. And by squaring, that justifies the other hand. Middle finger right here in the corner. And index, move the top card to the side. Thumb over here in the corner. You know, cover it. And you can show this angle because by moving the top half, except the top card from the top to the bottom, it's going to push this card a little sideways, okay, which is going to cover much better. Not just from the front, but also from the side, which is going to help. And then you're going to end up with the kings in the middle, take a little chunk, and then do a natural break to end up with the kings at the bottom. And that's going to be it for the way I did a setup and the performance. And the second way you can do this setup is by, you know, showing the kings as the police. And then the 5th card I in-jog it by showing the rest of the cards, and a little bit of a more messy way. This is the 5th card, so I can do a thumb break, lift it up, and square it. And notice the middle finger is still covering over here in the corner, the excessive thickness over here in the front. And before I even start counting, I need to do a thumb break. Then I can count 1, 2, 3, and drop this card, the thumb break, by squaring right above. And the other kings. So I can cut these top 4 cards, which is the king and the indifferent card. Put them over here. One. Be careful with this one. That's the only problem when you have cards back to back. And well, anyway, 2, 3, and keep doing a little bit of a mess. So the audience, they will end up a little bit more confused. The point is, I have the 3 kings at the bottom anyway, by doing confusing cuts. Then what I need to do next is bevel the cards on the deck, so I can get a pinky break right under the bottom king. Okay, so I'm gonna divide the city into 2 sections. Notice I'm taking the bottom card with the top half as well. Put this aside. Then I'm gonna ask the spectator to pick any card. You have to be careful with this way of controlling the cards. Let's say that they want this card over here. I try to square this card with the card right above. Make sure it's an even spread. So they want the 4 of diamonds in this case. Because you cannot lift both hands. That's the tricky part, because you cannot expose the card at the bottom. You need to bring this card a little further into the spread, and you need to inject this card. Now this is the issue. If you inject the selection a little bit, or you adjust the selection a little bit, you will flash regardless. That's why you want to keep the spread close to each other. So let's say they want this card over here. Don't delay, just put the card, that's it. 2 of clubs. When you go back, make sure you're completely flat, and by the swing motion, by bringing this spread back to you, you inject the selection just a little bit right under at least this card, which is next. And at this point, I take this little block. Notice I have the selection, and I adjust the one is right above the selection. And this little block, I'm gonna put it right above the selection. Okay. So at this point, I have the selection and 1 king. Leave it in the side. The second pile, I already had the 2 kings right over here, which means I had to put the selection right in the middle of these 2 kings. And the way I did it is the same way. Try to keep an even spread. They want this card over here, square it with a card 5 of spades. Just bring it a little bit into the spread, just a little bit, not too much, because otherwise you will inject or adjust the selection, and the slightest move, you will flash the selection. That's the problem. You take the one is right above the selection, and I put the entire block right above this selection, which is all the way at the bottom. What I need to do here is I need to buckle, which is the best way I can do to put it in the middle. By buckling a little bit in the front, you will see the big difference in the back. But to do this without even looking is by putting this. Let me inject the selection so you can see what I'm doing. You have a mechanic strip, put the entire block right above the selection. By buckling, you can hear a little click. So at this point, you know without even looking that selection is already sandwiched between the 2 kings. Okay, so that's a feeling way to realize. So I have the 2 agile cards, bring them into the city, and I already have the 2 kings with a selection number 2 and the last king with a selection number 1. So what I need to do next is do 1 hand card, but I need to apply pressure with the index and the forefinger and keep the deck towards me so I can give it a peek inside as soon as I open it. So I need to be sure that I'm actually cutting somewhere above the upper kings. So about 1/5 or 1/6 of the deck, just cutting a little portion, because if you don't apply pressure with the index and forefinger, you may end up cutting in the natural break, which is the key. Just apply pressure, cut little package, and when doing the one hand cut, you need to swing back, because if you cut just like that in front of the spectator, they will see the bottom card, which is one of the selections. So instead I cut like that, so I can see inside there is no king. Then I spin it and put this king. He's gonna end up sandwiching the last card. Okay, be careful when you pick them up so you don't flash like that. And at this point you can reveal the two kings, the red ones and the black ones, sandwiching the selection. The 2 and the 5.